it's just about giving back. I'm in a good place right now. You know what I mean? Like I can't complain. You know what I mean? But unfortunately, there's people who aren't, and that's a lot of independent wrestlers. That's a lot of people in general. I think ultimately, the way I feel is there's enough to go around and help others, whether they're an independent wrestler or whether they're somebody who just in need. It's a good thing to have. You know what I mean? Like it's just a good thing to do as a human being. If you do in fact have the funds to do that. See what what it was, whether it's a big cartel, whether it's their eBay store. I had my own eBay store too. Like not just wrestling stuff I sell other things. Again, it's part of that side hustle. You know what I mean? Like I learned a long time ago that you, as an independent wrestler, and this might get me here, I really don't care because it's the truth. You have to hustle. You know what I mean? And you have to be able to have other sources of income coming in while you do these gigs, because if you don't, I have rent to pay, I have a car note to pay, I have my insurance to pay. Like we all have, I don't have anyone paying stuff for me. It's all coming out of my pocket. And like any business, you have to be able to have money coming in order to support yourself and support those, like family members. So I think ultimately, if you have the funds, go check out the Pro Wrestling T-shirt, store. Go check out the Big Cartel store. Go check out their eBay store. I know a lot of, talents, female and male, are doing Patreons or, OnlyFans, stuff like that. I think to me, it's ultimately like we're all helping each other. I don't want to make it believe like it's all me helping an indie wrestler. Like, we're all helping each other here because, yes, I have provided to others because if I have, then I'm going to, for people who are in need, So it's not so much about like, if you're one of those people who, foolishly enough, just kind of relied on this as your end-all be-all, this right here was a rude awakening for many people.
Right. And I want to say again, hopefully my microphone works now. I don't know why it keeps automatically lowering me, so I keep having to check it out. But while we're talking about in terms of support and help, again, thank you for coming on the show, because by being here, you are definitely showing support. You're definitely helping me out. Fascinating guest that you are. Hey, yo, Harry Flynn. Hey, yo, Gundam. Hey, True Diva, how you doing? Okay, so here's what's going on. Next thing I want to talk about, now that you've talked about best ways to support, as you were saying, Patreon. By the way, I do have a Patreon myself for anybody who's interested. Cheap Pop Bang Bang. Anybody who is interested, talking about helping out there. Now, there is the other part of this equation, though, as was mentioned by Mr. Braun Strowman. We're going to read his tweet. I got that up here. We're going to talk about his tweet. Going to get your impressions of it first before we go into it. But here's what he wrote earlier in what I believe has been since a retracted tweet. But Adam Schnur, real name of Braun Strowman, said, "Here we go with more of the somebody pay for my bill stuff. If you can't afford your bills, maybe you should change professions. That's why I quit Strongman. I loved it, but I couldn't afford to live. So instead of making a GoFundMe or a Patreon, wanting someone else to take care of me, I went out and worked harder than I ever have in my life to get where I am. What happened to being accountable for your own actions?" That's the first part of his tweet. We'll just stop right there. So what's your initial reaction to those words from the champion right now, Braun Strowman? I almost said Universal Champion. Universal Champion, Braun Strowman.
I think with anything else, for me, the way I came up was like people are entitled to their opinion. I'm not going to sit here and preach to anybody how they should believe things are supposed to be or how things are done. If he really does believe that's the way things should be, then hey, that's on you. You know what I mean? I can be enough of an adult to see someone's perspective and be like, all right, I don't agree with it, but I'm going to respect his opinion as an individual to be allowed to say it. Okay. Now at the same time, he also has to realize that there's a backlash when you put that type of tweet out there on a public forum, like anything else. Like, it's like if someone were to say, hey, I think Mike Law is a douche, they would be partially right, but they certainly, would have the right to say whatever. It's just our right as human beings to have an opinion. And so if he believes that to be the case, and that's his opinion, he's certainly entitled to it. Again, it goes back to levels. You know what I mean? If you were a guy who had been coming up from the indies and seeing how hard the struggle is, I don't think he'd be so quick to tweet about that sort of thing. But he's a guy who was given he's a God-given genetics. You know what I mean? Like, guy's a freak of nature. I mean, he's just huge. And, to me, I think he just, it's a little bit, I'm not saying he worked any less harder when he was where he was. I think everyone knows that to get to that level of the WWE and to sustain longevity there, you have to work hard. I mean, I think you'd be pretty foolish to make believe that he isn't putting in an effort on his end. So I have to respect that. But I also believe that if he had come through the indies and he had slept in his car like we had, starved a few times when the promoter didn't draw a house, and probably wouldn't have enough money to pay people, then that was something that you would probably take into account when you post an opinion. Again, I have to say I respect everyone's ability to have an opinion and be able to state it. Whether I agree with that opinion, that's where you can debate, but I'm an adult, I'm not one of these people who's like, well, I didn't like what he said, so I'm gonna cancel him, it's ludicrous, you know what I mean? We can all disagree on things, but be adults enough to be able to present our opinion without still hating or wishing anything less on somebody.
I'm laughing just
because
people
should try it.
Right. I'm laughing just because that's something I talk about on the channel all the time, that I think a lot of people on the internet really overvalue opinions. Like, yes, everyone should have an opinion, but you don't need to get mad about someone else. Like, people, it's a Desiree song that a lot of people, for you grown people, you know what I'm talking about. People, some take a different view. My, oh my, for those of you who remember, You Gotta Be. Yeah, look it up if you don't know. But, real quick, Harry Flint, dude, I was never mad at you. That was all just play. I understand you were just messing around and torturing me. We were doing this thing last night where if anybody super chats $15, I have to watch a match of their choosing. And so Harry Flynn suggested, and because of him, I had to watch the Hulk Hogan-Shawn Michaels match of 2005 SummerSlam, which was not fun. But Harry Flynn, so...
What?
Yeah.
Wait a second. Wait. That match... Shawn Michaels not only made that program, but he made that match. That match just on the outlandish selling for Shawn Michaels made that whole thing for me. Like, I watch that match back every once in a while because it was like, we get what it was in the terms of the business end of what was happening there. But I was actually watching clips of that last night. That's great.
That's great. So we were watching the same thing. Well, there you go. Oh, and I also need to point out Harry Flynn also said, seems to be a fan of yours. He checked you out on Grimm's Toy Show. He's a big fan, so look at that.
Oh, wow. I haven't been on Grimm's in 2 years. I wish him well. He's a good guy.
Yeah, too true. All right, and so now going back to the Strowman stuff. True Diva, I definitely see what you're saying. Don't worry, I'll get to you in just a second because we do want to talk about real quick. So in response, a lot of what you said, Jim Cornette pointed out too, or people like Jim Cornette was pointing out that since he never came up through the independent scene, he was born the way he did. He is blessed with having certain attributes that attribute him to getting to the WWE. And not that that's anything against him, it's just that there's certain parts of the business he may or may not understand. However, with that being said, I'd like that you also pointed out that he definitely works hard. There's no way he doesn't, because the WWE machine demands that you do, and he wouldn't be employed if he didn't. So I like that you point that out as well. I think that's fair. But let's go back. So True Diva, as was pointed out by a lot of people, I also think the same thing. I think his words were taken slightly out of context or harsher from some people who took it a little harder than I think he meant it. But let's real quick, let's get into the chat. True Diva says he spoke without thinking. Some people have jobs that close or furloughed staff. He judged without seeing the other side. True Diva also said he did walk it back and apologize, but it fell on deaf ears. And yes, that is something else I would like to point out, because let's go back to the original tweet from Braun Strowman, because he replied to that tweet and said, "And for anyone that goes, that's easy for you to say. You're a WWE superstar. Just FYI, 7 years ago, I moved to Florida with everything I owned in a Kia Soul." I can't imagine him sitting in a Kia Soul. He didn't tweet that. That's just what I'm saying. With $150 to my name when I started this. So he does specify that he has known hardship, even though it might not be through the independent scene. He did know a little bit of hardship, and I actually. Weird coincidence. The first WrestleMania I ever attended to, I traveled for it. And I wound up in a Kia Soul. I rented a Kia Soul and I was driving that all weekend long. So weird coincidence. Apparently that's a wrestler thing. But anyway, so Braun Strowman has gone through some hardships, and it should also be noted that he did retract the tweet, he did apologize for it, and also in addition, he has donated money himself to relief causes and things like that. So I think that's something else that, and I agree with True Devo on that, a lot of people didn't want to focus because that's not where the controversy of the story is. But all in all, I do hear his point, and I did think he was taken a little bit out of context. So I like that you pointed out that he's, he is working hard, and it's something I think a lot of people kind of overlooked for this. But furthermore on this, there is the other question, though. What happens with all of the great supporters? Again, you guys in the Know-It-All Nation, too. What happens when the fans run out of funds themselves? Like, I cannot stress this enough. I pointed it out in the past, but again, I realize that I'm not the only one going through this. And as much as I appreciate the support, and I truly, genuinely do, and I've made this very clear on this channel multiple times, you guys are seriously my only source of income right now. And so I'm thankful for that in every way, shape, or form. But I don't want to, I don't want you going out of your way on my behalf, because if you're in hardship, you can't too. So, but that's something that I think now we need to remember about the wrestling community, more so than ever, is that the fans are the lifeblood of this. And I think you said it in the documentary, Dave Knows Wrestlers, featuring you, Colossal Mike Law. You mentioned yourself that a lot of people in the industry today forget about how important fans really are. We look at WWE attendance figures. There are none now. That's a huge source of income they're losing out on. And not only that, but also the independents don't have a WWE network or pay-per-view. They're losing out because they have zero income. So, how important is it from the fans, but also how important is it that the fans realize, well, we need them, we don't want them pulling themselves out. So what are your thoughts on all that?
I guess in terms of like the fans longevity, or the like, I think ultimately, if this isn't a wake-up call, like there are independents that are gonna do well based on like YouTube, stuff like that, and you have independent ITV, like they have their whole thing with subscriptions. So I think if you're looking to support the independents, buy a subscription on one of those. You know what I mean? I think that helps overall the health of the independent industry with the organizations that are aligned with them. There's a lot of great wrestling on those things. You know what I mean? With that being said, I think listen, like you have to take care of yourself first. You know what I mean? If you're in a situation where you're not financially capable of buying yourself food or getting yourself through the next week or so, then I don't think that would be the wisest thing to provide, to have that money. If you do happen to have some money that you say, hey, you know what? I need something to entertain myself. I need something, I do support this individual. I do support their form of entertainment, I tweeted or on Instagram a picture or something along the lines of the pro wrestling t-shirt store that I just opened. And my whole thing is, it's not that I expect anything. I don't think you should come. If you're in this wrestling industry and you expect anything out of it, then you're going to be in a world of hurt, physically and mentally. What I stated was we risk our bodies for the entertainment of the fans. If you do have the funds, by all means. So not support just me, but support everybody. You know what I mean? Like, again, it just goes back to supporting the great industry of professional wrestling, the business of professional wrestling. And to me, like, if this isn't a wake-up call for the promoters to get off their asses, and there are great promoters. There are still some great promoters out there. I can't list them all because it's just take forever, but there are promoters out there that are doing the bare minimum, that are not putting in the effort to make it an attraction for their fans to come out and watch these events. And that was something that was happening in the state, in different states that I was wrestling in. I'd see it, and it was just, think about about why you went to your show. Think about why I went to my first show. Outside of the WWE is because something about it that attracted me to independent wrestling. So I think ultimately, the promoters have to look into their products, see what it is that they can do that can be different from everybody else, and present it in high level. And I'm talking about, like you have we all work together. You have little production that will do the lighting and the you have the ring. It's all one big machine that if we work together, it starts with fans and ends with putting the possible show. Then it should be but great results going forward. But in the first few months that this business gets turned back on and we're allowed to go out there, perform, it's not good anyway. Bottom of the barrel production, lack of promoting, then see some terrible results. This should fuel to the fire that will allow the promoter and the wrestlers to go out there and build the houses going forward. I'm talking about 2-3 people. I'm talking about consistent draws where people start making money on a basis there. So that's yeah.
Okay. All right. I will say that in addition to all that, I do want to point out that I do think it's more important now than ever that independent wrestlers start really looking at. Mike, you still there with us, buddy? Mike?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Oh, okay. Thought I lost you for a second. Okay. Something that I think is important that we learn, not just the wrestling community, but also outside of it. But we start learning more about how to sustain ourselves and find work with the technology we have today in day and age, like the internet, like YouTube. There are a lot of platforms, podcasting, and all that we can expand upon. And as you pointed out, all the stores, merchandise, and things like that people can buy through. I think it's important that we really expand upon that and we let people know, wrestlers know that, as you said, it's about contact, it's about interaction. Let them know that you are a real person, that they can connect and talk with you, especially through this day and age, because it makes things a lot better. And not only that, it's also about survival. But I do want to talk about, we've been talking about during this is happening, and I know how is this affect? So I do want to talk about this. How is this affecting your workout regimen? How's that for your status as a wrestler? Keep it in shape. How's that
going? Very much. So I'll be the first one to admit that I had gotten very complacent and lazy.
Oh, real quick, thank you for the $10 super chat. Thank you. Is Arthur even here? Harry Flynn, dude, I appreciate the super chat so much. If Arthur is here, then okay. But thank you so much, Harry Flynn, for the $10 super chat.
That's awesome.
I appreciate that.
That's awesome.
But yeah, sorry about that, Mike. Continue with. Thank you, Harry Flynn. Continue.
So what? Basically, going back to what you said, I think yes, wrestlers need to put out more content, myself included. Whether it's on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, put stuff out there that's going to continue to get the fans to talk about you, to look at you, to kind of view the product even more. So once this thing is said and done and things are going to some form of normalcy, I think it's an opportunity that a lot of people are not taking advantage of in order to continue to be creative. You know what I mean? Like, I know we're not wrestling every week. Obviously, we're not out there putting on events, but I think if now's a true test to see how people are going to market themselves these next few months. With that being said, like I said before, I got very complacent. I put on I think I had one workout before a Limitless taping back in the end of February, I want to say. And before that, I hadn't worked out in 2-3 weeks. I was going through some personal situations. And then after that, I didn't work out for another 4 or 5 weeks. I started working out last Friday, I think. And I put on about 23 pounds, 25 pounds, but just like eating nonstop. But it was funny because some of my friends, they're all personal trainers and stuff. I was actually doing it because I wanted to get as much like, I want to get out of shape as much as possible because I want to show to people that it can get back into shape. You know what I mean? It's like you can get in the worst scenario physically, which I probably was, and try to, and then come back from that. And so, it's been a little bit of progress, but I imagine that by the time, bell time rolls around, I'll be back where
Good. Looking forward to it, buddy. All right, so I do want to catch up with the chat. Dale Santaford says, Ring of Honor is putting up free videos on YouTube, the same with NWA Power. Yes, and WWE has also been really good about putting a lot of content on as well. There's some full matches they're doing as well. Harry Flynn says, can we put Arthur in timeout? Yeah, next time I see him, buddy, you got it. Next time you're both around because I want you to be around to enjoy the fruits of your labor. Thank you again, Harry Flynn, for the super chat. True Diva 18 says, if these wrestlers, if wrestling is these people only source of income, I think about the financial and mental strain it's putting on them. Yeah, mental state. This whole thing is putting everybody on a on a rough mental state. But when we're talking about coming back from the ring and coming back to working out, everything that you're saying, out of shape, like 23 pounds is pretty big. I don't own a scale, so I dread to think about what I am eating. But like Dale Santaford talks about Steve Austin and potatoes, yes, I definitely have been eating a lot of potatoes. I've been buying potatoes because I know they're cheap and they last a while and you can get a lot out of them. Hash brown, fresh hash brown every day for breakfast. That's I don't know if that's a good breakfast, but yeah. Ben Espinosa says, "Hey Dave, your videos are amazing. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much, Ben." All right, so
yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that. But going back to now that they've brought up, now that the No Nation's brought up the content that's out there in the wrestling world, what kind of content we're getting here, I am kind of curious to you as a worker. What do you think about WWE doing these empty arena shows? Do you think this is the best idea, or do you think they're better off not running anything and not having people engage? What's your thoughts on the situation?
From a business standpoint. You know what I mean? Like, they have contractual obligations. You know what I mean? It's like any other business situation. You know what I mean? Like, you breach a contract, and there's going to be a lot of repercussions, economic, financial, and business standpoint. Which I think common person who doesn't. I'm not condoning or saying it's like to each their own. Like, I can't tell a multi-billionaire how to run his company.
Right.
I wouldn't. It's not my business. Like, I didn't want anyone telling me how to run my business when I had them. I would take suggestions from people, but ultimately that's just my decision. So, going back to that, I don't think it has the same effect. I was actually watching some of the other night. I go, it's very hard. Like, if you don't have that energy to field from the audience, it does not come off as well. And it's not a knock on anybody. It's not a knock on the talent. It's not a knock on. It's like any other form of entertainment or sports. When they're going to start playing basketball in empty arenas, you're going to see what we mean by that. Like, even that sport is going to be one of those things where it's like, it just does not fit the emotion. The reason people are so invested in the NFL and the NBA, in all these sports, in the WWE and all the UFC, is because of an emotional attachment to whether it's an individual, whether it's a move, whether it's a team, a player. There's some sort of emotional attachment that connects those individuals, that makes them want to buy their merchandise, that makes them want to, buy a ticket to see that individual next time they're in the arena. It's all layered within that connection that they see, and it's a lot harder for not only athletes to perform without that connection and that emotion from the audience. It just doesn't transcend to the TV screen as well, and believe me, like, as a person in the indies, like, people joke about it, but it's true. I've wrestled in front of one paid fan one time in Boonton, New Jersey. I'll never forget it. He wrote up a good review of my match, so
well, that's good.
That was nice. But yeah, 2004, 2005, and I was just like, I'll tell you, it's not, wrestling in front of 10 people is tough. Right. So I can't imagine in wrestling in front of nobody how tough it is, like, to just not so much to have the desire to perform at a high level. No, it's not that. It's the emotional connection, the intensity, all that stuff that builds within the confines of a crowded arena. That's why wrestling is successful when there's people, watching and are into it. When you have these great crowds that are into every single thing, those may not technically be the best matches, but they feel like they're the greatest things on earth because the fans make it that,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Definitely agree to that. Okay, so something else I do want to address. Oh, and real quick, yes, Harry Flynn, that will be our code. I'll know exactly what you're talking about. And Samurai Productions, yes, of course. New Japan is also doing a great job of airing some free content available for everybody. So yeah, a lot of the people are very supportive about it. Real quick side note, somebody mentioned this in the chat yesterday. They said, well, how would you, as a worker, how would you feel playing, if they played music during these matches? Do you think that would make things better or worse? Like, kind of like
no,
no music, not a music. Okay,
I mean, there were a few wrestlers in this history that got away with it that I recall. New Jack was probably the only one who consistently did that in ECW, but that was really his thing. You know what I mean? Like that again, that set him apart from everybody else. Nobody had matches where their music was playing from the beginning to the end of the match. And it created that crazy environment that I don't know if you could recapture ever again. I don't play music will make a difference. In fact, it'll make it seem even hokier and probably not as believable.
I said I want them to play the WWF No Mercy video game music, or like and just play that the whole time. See if we could get away with that.
Bring back, that's all I gotta say. The old wrestling theme, that was a great one.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Last thing I want to talk about, and again, thank you for being on the show. Always a fun time. But the biggest thing, because as you mentioned, not only are you a wrestler, but you've also promoted. You know this business very well. So when things get back to normal, hopefully things will get back to normal. But going forward from this, what's the best advice? How do you foresee this? How do you foresee everything happening in the future? And what do you think should happen? What should wrestlers? What should promoters? What should fans know about the future? What do you think? What do you think they should do? And what do you think is going to happen?
I think it has to be taken. Ultimately, everyone's health is the most important, optimum thing. I think once we start seeing the progression of everything in terms of the economy reopening, I think ultimately the promoters, like I'm talking about the Beyond Wrestling's, GCWs, all these great promoters out there that constantly do very well. In my opinion, in my estimation, and this is me saying, if you're not a promoter who's on that level of those guys that are putting on those type of events that are like top level events, Evolve, stuff like that, I would let those guys go first. I would let those guys go first because you want the best impression on the way back. You want this business to come back even stronger and better than it is before, because all it takes, and I'll tell you right now, is a few shows that are terrible, that are booked terrible, that have no production value, that have a bunch of backyarders wrestling on it, untrained people on it. That's a no. Please, could we stop? Could we at least get rid of that part? I don't, if you want to, hook up your friends with work or wrestling, but let them be trained at least, and no more of the backyard stuff. Like that I have to put my foot down at some point. But I think the companies like the GCWs, like like the top level companies at Ring of Honor. Well, Ring of Honor and those guys are on that level, but if you're gonna run shows and events first, let those guys go to bat. Let them go to bat. Let them produce events, that are going to be so well received that fans will be like, okay, we can come back to this. It's a good thing. You know what I mean? Like they're putting on quality shows. My money is worth the investment. You know what I mean? And for fans, support those companies. I understand we want to support everybody. And wrestling fans are the most passionate fans. People can say whatever they want about it, but it's true. They're very passionate fans. And to me, like, it's always great to support, indie wrestling. However, if there are promotions that are doing stuff that, probably are not the best for business, there's nothing wrong with saying, you know what, I can't support that product. There's way more numerous reasons to get into than I can possibly have time. But I would just say that if you don't think it's worthy of your investment, your money into as a fan, as a customer, then there are other alternatives. My advice going forward for independent wrestling is to have the promoters who have their act together, the IWCs, the RW, all those companies in the areas that have been putting on crazy, events, great quality events. Let them go first. Let them touch those waters, see how it is. Get those fans warmed up, get them going, and then from there, slowly, and then even the lower tier promotions, you guys have to do a better job. You have to everything has to start escalating and have to be at least at a better level than it was before we left. Because if not, then this whole time off has been a waste of everyone's time.
Thank you very much. Very good point. And I definitely. Hey, look, no, I definitely agree. We got to hit the ground running for sure. So definitely looking forward to when you could get back in the ring. We could see you. Mike, let everyone know where they can support you, where they can check more of you out. Let everyone know.
Great, man. You can support me. Go to my Instagram, of course, my Twitter, Facebook. So Instagram and Twitter, same thing, at Colossal Mike Law. Don't forget to follow at The Real Barbie, the barbell. That's my barbell. She's on Instagram and Twitter. I don't have enough room, unfortunately, for friends on Facebook, but you can definitely follow me on Facebook on my page at Masculine Marvel, Facebook. Also, my pro wrestling t-shirt, brand new, state-of-the-art, prowrestlingtees.com website, /Colossal. My Big Cartel also have other products available. I do have my eBay store. So, again, it just goes back to having, several forms of being able to. The eBay store is more, I guess it's gear, but there's other things too, that I sell there. That's my little side hustle there, of course. It's more away from the wrestling stuff, if that's the case. More household supplies and stuff like that.
Oh, very good. Okay, great. So, guys, Mike, thank you for being on the show and informing us about the gig economy. A very important subject that I think wrestling fans need to know about. But, guys, also go and support Mike Law for sure. He definitely deserves it. Again, thank you for being here. Thank you to Harry Flynn for the super chat. We'll see. Hopefully, we all see each other on the other side of this. Thank you so much again to all of you for being here, and to Mike for being my special guest. And as always,